there's a short life in
Why do you think that is? What the creative side is?
Well, because losing out money, you got to take drugs. You're going through so much to try and deal with life.
In her civil lawsuit, Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, assault, and rape at the hands of Diddy.
Here's the thing about rumors. They don't just appear out of nowhere. They're born in whispers, carried through rooms, exchanged in hurried conversations, and eventually grow legs strong enough to run through the media at full speed. And right now, all eyes are on Janice Combs, the mother of Sean Diddy Combs, as allegations swirl that she's the unseen hand behind a campaign of threats and intimidation aimed at silencing her son's accusers. What's wild is that, if true, this isn't just about protecting a son. It's about managing an empire, preserving a legacy, and, frankly, keeping the walls from crumbling all the way down.
Thought Diddy would be throwing all his celebrity mates under the bus.
I mean, that could potentially be coming when it's time for court and when it's time for him to testify. But what we're seeing right now is how important public relations really are to Sean Combs. He's desperately trying to control the narrative behind bars, allowing his attorneys to do documentaries.
The talk of Janice's involvement isn't new. It's been simmering ever since the first major accusations against Diddy hit the headlines. But now, with lawsuits piling up and courtrooms bracing for what might be the entertainment scandal of the decade, her name is being dragged into the spotlight like never before. People are asking, how far is she willing to go? Does Janice Combs hold the strings to this entire mess, pulling them behind the scenes while casting a public image of motherly devotion? Or is this just another layer of sensationalism in a story already bursting at the seams? Let's start with the whispers that first began to circulate after Cassie, Diddy's former long-term partner, came forward with her explosive lawsuit. Cassie's story was devastating, a detailed account of control, manipulation, and alleged mistreatment that painted Diddy as a man who would stop at nothing to dominate those around him. Her lawsuit wasn't just a shot across the bow. It was a cannonball aimed straight at the heart of his empire. And while Diddy's legal team moved quickly to settle, the damage was already done. But here's the catch. According to insiders, Cassie allegedly faced more than just legal threats after filing her claim.
You are literally, it's an unhealthy space. And so eventually you're going to go too far, Who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what he had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head, but when you lose your man card.
Reports suggest that Cassie, along with other accusers, has been on the receiving end of what some describe as veiled warnings to stay quiet. These aren't your garden variety cease and desist letters. We're talking about unsettling phone calls, cryptic messages, and, in some cases, a sense of being watched. And while there's no hard evidence tying these actions to Janice Combs, her name has come up more than once in conversations about who might be orchestrating this alleged campaign of silence. After all, Janice isn't just any mother. She's a matriarch who's been deeply involved in her son's business dealings for decades. If anyone knows how to protect the family brand, it's her. Now, let's be clear. Janice has publicly denied any involvement in such tactics. Her recent statements have positioned her as nothing more than a concerned mother, devastated by what she calls a public attack on her son. But behind the scenes, there's a different narrative taking shape. Industry insiders say that Janice has always been fiercely protective of Diddy, to the point where she's willing to go to extraordinary lengths to shield him from harm, whether that harm is physical, financial, or reputational. And if the rumors are to be believed, those lengths might include pressuring witnesses and accusers to back off.
Card.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it, a man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying.
Take, for example, the unsettling claims made by a former employee of Bad Boy Records who recently spoke to an anonymous outlet. According to this source, there's a long-standing culture within Diddy's orbit of using fear and intimidation to keep people in line. And while Diddy himself has often been seen as the face of this behavior, the source alleges that Janice has played a more significant role than most people realize. She's the one you don't see coming, the source reportedly said. Diddy's loud, he's flashy. But Janice, she's the quiet storm. She'll make a call and suddenly things just go away. But things don't always go away, do they? Especially not in today's world, where social media amplifies every misstep and every revelation. And as more accusers step forward, the alleged tactics of intimidation are starting to come under scrutiny. Multiple sources have hinted that some accusers were offered settlements under the condition that they sign ironclad non-disclosure agreements. While NDAs are common in high-profile disputes, the timing and nature of these agreements have raised eyebrows. Were they simply legal tools, or were they part of a larger strategy to bury the truth?
We are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly.
Then there's the curious case of the pattern. Legal analysts have noted a similarity in how certain accusers have been treated, patterns that suggest a coordinated effort to discredit or silence them. For instance, one accuser reportedly received a series of anonymous messages warning her to think carefully about going public. Another claimed that she was approached by a representative offering a substantial financial incentive to withdraw her allegations. And while none of these claims have been directly linked to Janice, the whispers persist. Why? Because in the world of high-stakes celebrity scandals where there's smoke, there's often fire, and people are starting to wonder just how much smoke Janice is willing to create to protect her son. What makes this even more fascinating, if not outright chilling, is the psychological toll these alleged threats take on the victims. Imagine summoning the courage to come forward, only to be met with a barrage of subtle but deliberate attempts to undermine your resolve. One legal expert described it as a war of attrition, where the goal isn't necessarily to win in court, but to exhaust the opposition to the point where they simply give up. And if that's the strategy at play here, it's a dangerous game, one that could backfire spectacularly if the allegations are proven true.
That did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, it's gone.
But let's not forget the legal implications. If it's discovered that Janice Combs has played any role in intimidating witnesses or tampering with the judicial process, the fallout could be catastrophic, not just for her, but for Diddy's entire defense. Obstruction of justice is no small charge, and the mere suggestion of such behavior could sway public opinion even further against them. Already, legal experts are speculating that these allegations could open the door to new investigations, potentially dragging more people into the fray. And then there's the matter of public perception. While Diddy's reputation has taken a significant hit, the idea that his mother might be involved in these alleged tactics adds a new layer of complexity. For years, Janice has been portrayed as the supportive, doting mother who stood by her son as he built his empire. But if these allegations gain traction, that image could shatter overnight. And the irony? The very tactics allegedly being used to protect the family legacy might end up being the thing that destroys it.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me.
What's clear is that the stakes couldn't be higher. As lawsuits continue to pile up and the media digs deeper into every aspect of Diddy's life, the pressure on Janice and the entire Combs family, and the entire Combs family is reaching a breaking point. The question now is whether these allegations of intimidation are just the tip of the iceberg. Because if there's one thing we learned about scandals like this, it's that they have a way of spiraling out of control, dragging everyone and everything down with them. And here's where things start to unravel even further. Because if you thought the allegations of threats and coercion were bad enough, buckle up. Diddy's history of violence and the dark cloud that's been hovering over his empire for decades is about to crash into the present with full force. This is more than just a series of isolated incidents. It's a pattern, a legacy, a reputation that's been whispered about in the industry for years. And now it's all coming back to bite him.
I came here today just to tell the truth, so hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100%, the charges against me are 100% false, and hopefully due to time, we'll start to see that.
For those who followed Diddy's career from the beginning, the signs have always been there. The flashy image, the larger-than-life parties, the endless string of high-profile feuds, it all painted a picture of a man who thrived on control and dominance. But behind the glitz and glamour, there's been a trail of disturbing stories, and they're impossible to ignore now that the spotlight is shining brighter than ever. Industry insiders have long murmured about Diddy's temper, his need to intimidate, his willingness to push boundaries to get what he wants. And as the lawsuits stack up, those whispers are turning into defending roars. Let's go back to the early days of Diddy's rise, when Bad Boy Records was the hottest label in the game and he was the undisputed king of New York. Back then, his reputation as a hard-nosed businessman was part of the allure. But even then, there were cracks in the facade. Behind the scenes, former associates have described a man who was ruthless to the core, someone who viewed loyalty as a one-way street. And when that loyalty was questioned, let's just say Diddy wasn't known for handling it quietly. Numerous former employees have spoken anonymously about the culture of fear that permeated the label's offices, where stepping out of line could mean losing not just your job, but your place in the industry altogether.
Look at Diddy, for instance. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at him. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at, he has videos. He has videos of the parties. Now, What I've heard, which I don't know how much of it is in mainstream media, I don't really follow the story that much, but what I've heard from friends that are attorneys, friends of mine that have represented me before, agents and so on, is there's a bidding war going on right now.
But it wasn't just about business. Diddy's personal life has also been marked by allegations of aggression and control. Friends turned enemies, ex-partners with stories they'd rather not tell, and a long list of people who've mysteriously faded from his orbit, each of them leaving behind a breadcrumb trail of rumors and half-truths that now feel eerily prescient. And while Diddy has always been quick to deny any wrongdoing, the sheer volume of these stories makes it hard to dismiss them all as coincidence. And then there's the company he kept. Over the years, Diddy has surrounded himself with a rotating cast of celebrities, business moguls, and power players who've all played a part in shaping his image. But as the allegations against him grow more damning, some of those same people seem to be distancing themselves. It's not hard to see why. In an industry where perception is everything, being associated with a scandal of this magnitude is a risk few are willing to take. And yet, the silence from some of Diddy's closest allies is deafening. Where are public statements of support? Where are the friends lined up to vouch for his character? Instead, we're seeing a slow, steady exodus of people who'd rather not get dragged into the mess.
To not be involved, a famous singer, to not come out, here's the price. And that they're just selling to the individuals that are in those, this is what I heard, they're selling those videos. So if you're Tommy X, and Tommy X is a big, big movie star, and he was at some of the Diddy parties, he was in one of those bedrooms with 3 other men, and he's happily married to a woman, and blah. Tommy doesn't want that video to come out. He does not want it to come out.
Take the rumors surrounding certain high-profile celebrities who were once regulars at Diddy's infamous parties. Over the years, those gatherings have become the stuff of legend, lavish, exclusive, and, according to some, more than a little bit sinister. Guests who are lucky enough to score an invite would often leave with stories of extravagance and excess, but there's always been an undercurrent of something darker. And now, with the legal spotlight shining on Diddy's inner circle, some of those former partygoers are staying conspicuously quiet. Could it be that they saw things they'd rather not admit? Or are they simply trying to avoid being tainted by association? But let's talk about the people who are always more than just guests at the parties. The ones who worked for Diddy, sat at his table, and operated in his shadow. There's Jacob Arabo, the famed jeweler, known as Jacob Arabo, the famed jeweler, known as Jacob the jeweler, a man synonymous with a lispling and excess. He was often spotted at Diddy's events, dripping in diamonds while mingling with Hollywood's elite. Yet, Jacob's business ventures have raised eyebrows over the years with whispers of ties to questionable dealings. Did his close proximity to Diddy shield him from scrutiny, or did it make him complicit in something much bigger? And what about the managers, assistants, and so-called fixers who kept the wheels turning behind the scenes? These were the people who allegedly booked the venues, hired the staff, and ensured that everything went off without a hitch, at least on the surface.
So remember when I said Diddy mother might be the originator of the freak-offs? Mm-hmm. All right, so apparently tomorrow there's the Peacock is dropping the Diddy documentary. It's called Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy. And the doc gets into Diddy's childhood and his experience growing up in connection to the lawsuit. Assault allegations he's currently facing.
One name that keeps coming up is Erica English, a woman described in some reports as Diddy's personal assistant, but alleged by others to have played a much darker role. According to multiple sources, Erica wasn't just managing schedules and coordinating flights. She was allegedly the one making discreet phone calls, arranging transportation for certain guests, and ensuring that no one outside the circle ever got too close to the truth. And yet, Erica remains an enigma. Despite her name being floated in legal documents and media reports, she's managed to stay largely out of the spotlight. Why hasn't she spoken out? Is she protecting herself, or is she protecting Diddy? Then there's the curious case of Brendan Paul, a man rumored to have been Diddy's go-to-runner for years. Brendan's job, according to insiders, was to handle the unglamorous but crucial tasks that kept Diddy's empire running smoothly. Need something delivered discreetly. Brendan was your guy. Need a problem solved quietly. He'd take care of it. But recent allegations suggest that Brendan may have been more than just a loyal employee. Multiple sources have claimed that he played a key role in procuring items and services for some of Diddy's more controversial events. And while Brendan has denied any wrongdoing, his name has become a lightning rod for speculation, with many wondering just how deep his involvement really goes.
According to the Rolling Stone, the doc features an alleged childhood friend of Puff's, hip-hop producer Tim Dog Patterson. He alleged that Janice, Diddy's mom, would often throw parties at Diddy's childhood home. He says that during the parties, it wasn't uncommon to walk into rooms where adults was having I mean, that was just their normal.
The fallout isn't just limited to Diddy's social circle. His business empire, once a testament to his genius as an entrepreneur, is beginning to show cracks. Brands that once clamored to work with him are now reevaluating their partnerships. Investors are reportedly skittish, and projects that were once greenlit with enthusiasm are now quietly being shelved. Even the music itself, Diddy's Bread and Butter, is taking a hit. Streaming numbers are reportedly down, with fans questioning whether they can separate the art from the artist. And while Diddy's team has tried to spin the narrative, claiming that he's simply taking a step back to focus on his family, the timing couldn't be more suspicious. But perhaps the most damning aspect of all this is the role his mother, Janice Combs, is rumored to have played in shaping his approach to conflict and power. Those close to the family have described her as a formidable figure, someone who's always been fiercely protective of her son, but also unafraid to get her hands dirty when necessary. And while Janice has largely stayed out of the public eye, her influence on Diddy's career and his alleged behavior, could it be that the apple didn't fall far from the tree? Or is Janice just another victim of the media's relentless need to find someone to blame?
Well, certainly there's a lot of information that needs to be substantiated, investigated, and those kinds of things. But when we look at people who become sexual offenders, we oftentimes see early exposure to whether that's or actual behavior, and we oftentimes see that within the family. And so
what's clear is that the legacy of violence and intimidation that surrounds Diddy is no longer something that can be swept under the rug. With each new allegation, the picture becomes clearer and darker. And while Diddy's team continues to deny everything, the court of public opinion is already forming its own verdict. The question now is whether these allegations will lead to real consequences, or if Diddy will somehow manage to escape unscathed once again. But here's the thing, scandals like this don't just disappear. They linger, they fester, and they have a way of pulling more people into their orbit. And as more names are added to the list of accusers, as more stories come to light, it's becoming increasingly difficult to imagine a scenario where Diddy walks away with his reputation intact. The walls are closing in, and for a man who's built his entire career on being untouchable, that has to be terrifying. So, what do you think? Is this just the beginning of the end for Diddy, or is there a way for him to claw his way back from the brink? And what about Janice? How much of this mess can really be traced back to her influence? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and trust us, we're just getting started. See you in the next one.